Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales and boundless imagination come to life. Enjoy the story and don't forget to subscribe. The holographic termination notice flickered in front of Austin Reeves's face, its cheerful corporate blue tint somehow amplifying the sting. He sat slumped in his cramped cubicle on the 157th floor of New Chicago's colossal data optimization hub, watching his career evaporate into digital dust thanks to recent restructuring initiatives. Due to advancements in predictive algorithms, your position has been deemed optimized, the pre-recorded message droned, its AI-generated smile unwavering. We appreciate your contributions. Austin ran a hand through his perpetually messy brown hair, glancing at the meager collection of personal items adorning his desk, a coffee-stained, world's okayest analyst, mug, a gag gift from his colleague, Ben, and a struggling succulent that had stubbornly clung to life despite his neglect. "Hey, Reeves." Ben materialized at his cubicle entrance, grinning with the unsettling enthusiasm of someone who hadn't just been digitally axed. "Heard about the adjustments. Rough break, man. We're hitting up 0G bar later if you want to drown your sorrows in synthesized whiskey." Austin sighed, shoving his mug into a cardboard box. The succulent could meet its demise on company time. His cowlink buzzed. It was Jessica. Her holographic face materialized, her expression a carefully constructed mask of concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. This day was officially a dumpster fire. "Austin, we need to talk," she said, her perfectly sculpted blonde hair and subtly enhanced features projecting at a volume that always seemed a touch too loud. "Can you meet me at Starlight Cafe?" 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, Austin sat across from his soon-to-be ex-girlfriend, watching her meticulously stir her synthetic latte with practiced precision. The cafe's panoramic windows offered a breathtaking view of the city's upper echelons, where sleek personal spacecraft and automated delivery drones zipped between towering chrome-and-glass skyscrapers. "It's not you, Austin," Jessica began, then paused, her gaze momentarily flickering away from his face. "Well, actually, it is you. Or rather, your trajectory. Do you know what Richard accomplished last year?" "Who's Richard?" Austin asked, although he already knew. He'd seen the meticulously curated social media posts, the breathless business news headlines. "Richard Sterling," Jessica said, her voice taking on a reverent tone. "He's pioneering sustainable fusion energy. He's on the verge of solving the global power crisis. He's dynamic." Jessica's eyes lit up with an intensity he hadn't seen directed at him in months. "We've been seeing each other," she continued, carefully placing her latte spoon on the pristine white saucer. Austin's emotional circuits momentarily overloaded. "For how long?" "That's not important," she waved dismissively. "What's important is that I need someone who's going somewhere in life. Richard has vision, Austin. He has drive. He has resources. He has money," Austin finished flatly, a bitter taste rising in his throat. Jessica stood, smoothing down her designer dress. "I've already had my things moved out of the apartment. Richard's AI assistant handled everything." She hesitated, then placed a keycard on the table. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Austin. I really do." The sky opened up as Austin left the cafe. Of course, it did. Real, unfiltered rain, not the scheduled precipitation that usually fell in the city's upper levels. He trudged through puddles reflecting neon advertisements for off-world vacation packages and anti-aging serums, his shoes squelching with each step. "Find what I'm looking for," he muttered, mimicking Jessica's saccharine tone. "I was looking for loyalty, but I guess that's not trending this season." A flicker of movement caught his eye. Squeezed between two towering corporate headquarters, in a space that seemed too narrow to contain it, sat a shop he'd never noticed before. The sign above the door read, "Curiosities and Possibilities," in what appeared to be actual, hand-painted letters, rather than the ubiquitous holographic displays. Lightning flashed, and for a moment, the shop seemed to shimmer, its edges blurring as if it existed in multiple places at once. Austin blamed it on the rain and the sheer absurdity of his day. A bell, an actual, physical bell, chimed as he pushed open the door. The interior was a chaotic jumble of objects that seemed to defy New Chicago's rigid regulations. Crystals hummed with an inner light, ancient-looking books lay open to impossible diagrams, and a miniature galaxy swirled lazily within a glass sphere. The air thrummed with a faint, almost palpable energy. "Welcome, welcome," a voice called from behind a towering stack of dusty tomes. "Or perhaps, goodbye, since you're already halfway out the door." The shopkeeper emerged from the shadows, and Austin had to suppress a gasp. The elderly man appeared human at first glance, but something was subtly, unsettlingly off about his proportions. His fingers, as he spread them in greeting, numbered 7 on each hand. "I'm not leaving," Austin said, shaking off his surprise. "I just got here." "Ah, but you were about to turn around. I saw it in your timeline. However, since you stayed, you might as well peruse what called you here." "Nothing called me here. I just wanted to get out of the rain." "The rain called you here." "The rain, and this." The shopkeeper reached beneath the counter and produced a bracelet unlike anything Austin had ever seen. It appeared to be crafted from living metal, its surface rippling like liquid mercury, but with an iridescent sheen that hinted at deep space viewed through a quantum lens. As Austin watched, intricate patterns emerged and dissolved across its surface, geometric shapes that seemed to exist in more dimensions than his eyes could process. "It's interesting," Austin admitted, surprising himself by reaching for it. "What is it?" "A bargain," the shopkeeper declared, a mischievous glint in his multifaceted eyes. "Normally, such an item would cost more than a small moon, but for you, today only, it's practically free." "How much?" "What's in your pocket?" Austin dug out a handful of crumpled credits and some lint. The shopkeeper snatched the credits with surprising speed, leaving the lint untouched. "Perfect. A most auspicious transaction." He pushed the bracelet toward Austin. "Go on, try it on. It's quite safe." "Mostly safe. Safe adjacent, at the very least." The moment Austin's fingers brushed against the bracelet, it seemed to come alive. It slithered around his wrist like a living thing, conforming perfectly to his skin. A warm sensation pulsed through his arm, followed by a feeling of rightness, as if he'd been wearing it his entire life. "Excellent. It's chosen you," the shopkeeper clapped his too many hands together. "No refunds, by the way. Not that you'll want one." "Chosen me? Wait, what do you mean?" Austin turned back to the counter, but the shopkeeper was gone. So was the counter. And the shop. He stood in the rain, alone on the street, with no sign that curiosities and possibilities had ever existed. The only proof of his experience was the bracelet, which now seemed to glow softly against his skin. "Welcome, new bearer," a voice whispered in his mind. "It has been so long since we found one worthy." Austin yelped, drawing strange looks from passing pedestrians. "Who said that?" "We are the Nexus," the voice continued, somehow managing to sound both ancient and amused. "Through us, galaxies have been united, empires forged, and destinies altered. And now, we are yours." "I don't want to unite galaxies," Austin muttered, tugging at the bracelet. It wouldn't budge. "I just want my job back, and maybe my girlfriend. Those small concerns will soon seem distant memories," the Nexus assured him. "Already, fortune's winds shift in your favor." Austin's comlink chimed. A notification from his bank, his account balance showed a number with significantly more zeros than it had that morning. Then another chime, his apartment's AI announcing upgraded environmental controls and new furniture delivery. Another chime, his social media presence exploding with followers and messages from people he'd never met. "And that," the Nexus whispered, "is merely the beginning. Tell us, Lord Austin of Earth, are you ready to embrace your destiny? Lord Austin. Austin squeaked. Indeed. The mantle of Lord of Fortuitous Circumstance now falls to you. The princesses will be so pleased. The what will be what now? But the Nexus fell silent, leaving Austin standing in the rain with a magical bracelet, a fortune he couldn't explain, and the distinct feeling that his life was about to become considerably more complicated than a mere job loss and breakup. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Or perhaps it was the universe laughing. Austin stumbled back to his apartment, dripping rain onto the floor that should have been cheap synthetic bamboo, but now appeared to be actual marble. The lights activated automatically, revealing a space he barely recognized. Welcome home, Lord Reeves, his apartment's AI greeted him in a much posher accent than it had possessed that morning. Shall I prepare your evening refreshments? The replicator has been upgraded to handle vintage Earth wines and rare Centaurian spirits. Just water, Austin managed, sinking into what had previously been his worn-out couch, but was now an elegant piece of furniture that seemed to adjust itself perfectly to his body. And answers. Lots of answers. Your dwelling has been deemed unsuitable for one of your new station, the Nexus commented. We took the liberty of making minor improvements. Minor? Austin gestured at the holographic art now adorning his walls, pieces that seemed to move in ways that suggested they existed in multiple dimensions. My coffee table is hovering. The anti-gravity features are quite modest by galactic standards. Though perhaps we should discuss more pressing matters. Your first courtship ceremony will likely begin soon. Austin choked on his water. My what? His comlink erupted with notifications, social media messages, news alerts, and diplomatic communications. He watched in horror as his status updates automatically changed across every platform. Lord Austin Reeves, bearer of the Nexus, eligible sovereign of fortuitous circumstance. Oh, God, he groaned. What have you done? Merely announced your availability to the appropriate channels, the Nexus explained. The royal houses must be notified when a new bearer emerges. It's tradition. The apartment's main display screen activated itself, showing what appeared to be breaking news from the Galactic Cultural Network. Breaking news, a purple-skinned announcer declared, her antennae twitching with excitement. Earth has unexpectedly produced a new bearer of the legendary Nexus of Fortuitous Unions. Social media is ablaze with speculation about this mysterious Lord Reeves. Already, several royal houses have expressed interest in diplomatic relations. The screen split to show various alien dignitaries commenting on the situation. Of course, we're intrigued, a stunningly beautiful, blue-skinned woman with crystalline hair was saying. The emergence of a new bearer is always a significant event. The House of Eternal Starlight will certainly be sending representatives. Representatives? Austin squeaked. Princess Zilthian herself, the Nexus sounded pleased. The Psychic Nebula Collective rarely shows such immediate interest. You must have made quite an impression. I haven't made any impression. I haven't done anything. On the contrary, your pheromone levels and genetic compatibility ratings are causing quite a stir. Also, that thing you did with the rain-soaked hair was apparently quite attractive by several species standards. Austin ran to his bathroom, which now resembled a luxury spa more than the cramped space he remembered. His reflection showed the same disheveled guy as always, but the bracelet on his wrist pulsed with an inner light that seemed to make him look better, somehow. More distinguished. More lordly. His cowlink chimed again, a message from Jessica. Austin, I just saw the news. What's going on? Why are alien princesses talking about you? Call me back immediately. Ah, the Nexus commented. The former mate returns. How predictable. This isn't happening, Austin muttered, splashing water on his face. I'm having a mental breakdown. The stress of losing my job has finally. A soft chime interrupted his spiral of denial. The apartment's AI spoke, "My lord, your presence is requested at the Galactic Embassy. A diplomatic shuttle awaits outside." Austin rushed to his window. Sure enough, an elegant vessel hovered outside, its design suggesting it cost more than he would have made in 10 lifetimes at his former job. "Shall we begin your instruction in proper courtship protocols?" the Nexus asked. The basics of interspecies diplomatic flirtation are quite fascinating. For instance, among the Psychic Nebula Collective, a properly timed mental compliment can be worth more than 1,000 spoken words. "I don't need diplomatic flirtation protocols. I need this bracelet off." "That won't be possible until you've fulfilled your duties as bearer." Now, about those protocols, when greeting a plasma-based princess, it's important to remember that spontaneous combustion is often a sign of attraction. Austin slumped against his newly marble wall, watching as more diplomatic shuttles joined the first. In the distance, he could see news drones gathering to film the scene. "I don't suppose you'd accept a formally written resignation?" he asked hopefully. "My dear Lord Reeves," the Nexus replied with what felt like centuries of amusement, "you haven't even begun to see what fortune has in store for you. Now, shall we dress you properly for your first audience?" The House of Eternal Starlight is quite particular about presentation. As his closet began automatically cycling through options that definitely hadn't been there that morning, Austin realized that losing his job might have been the least significant change this day would bring. The bracelet pulsed warmly, almost like a laugh, and Austin had the distinct feeling that somewhere in the cosmos, several princesses were already planning their trips to Earth. The diplomatic shuttle glided silently through the new Chicago skyline, its sleek exterior a stark contrast to the chaos raging inside Austin's mind. He was wearing, well, he wasn't entirely sure what he was wearing. The outfit consisted of shimmering, form-fitting trousers that seemed to adapt to his every movement, paired with a jacket that flowed and shifted in colors he couldn't name. The Nexus insisted it was universally appealing. Austin suspected it was just universally weird. "Relax, Lord Reeves," the Nexus said, its voice echoing inside his head. "Your heart rate is spiking. Try to maintain a calm and dignified demeanor. Remember, first impressions are crucial." "Easy for you to say," Austin muttered, fidgeting with the collar of his jacket thing. "You're not the one about to be scrutinized by a bunch of alien princesses who probably have PhDs in galactic politics." "Incorrect. I am the one providing you with real-time intelligence on their individual preferences, historical biases, and preferred conversation topics. For Princess Zilthian, a nuanced appreciation of multidimensional art is key. For Princess Lyra of the House of Eternal Starlight, a demonstration of empathy towards non-corporeal entities is highly valued. And under no circumstances mention Princess Anya's unfortunate incident with the sentient nebula." Austin's brain threatened to short-circuit. "This is insane. I'm just a data analyst. I optimize spreadsheets. You are now the bearer of the Nexus. The fate of intergalactic relations may very well rest on your shoulders." The shuttle docked smoothly at the Galactic Embassy, a sprawling complex that resembled a cross between a botanical garden and a particle accelerator. The doors hissed open, revealing a delegation of impeccably dressed, and decidedly not human, dignitaries. A tall, insectoid being with iridescent wings stepped forward. "Welcome, Lord Reeves. I am Xyler, Protocol Officer for the Galactic Consortium. We are honored by your presence." Xyler's voice was a series of clicks and whistles that the Nexus helpfully translated into something vaguely resembling English. Thanks," Austin managed, trying not to stare at Xyler's antennae. "Pleased to be here. I guess." Xyler led him through a labyrinthine series of corridors, each more alien than the last. He passed floating orbs that seemed to be engaged in philosophical debates, plant-like creatures that communicated through bioluminescent patterns, and beings composed entirely of swirling energy. "This is a lot," Austin said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Indeed," Xyler replied. "The Galactic Embassy is a microcosm of the universe itself. It is essential to remain culturally sensitive. They arrived at a vast reception hall, where a throng of alien dignitaries waited. The air buzzed with a cacophony of languages, scents, and energy signatures. Austin felt like he'd stepped into the Mos Eisley Cantina on steroids. And now, Zyler announced, his voice echoing through the hall, "I present to you, Lord Austin Reeves, bearer of the Nexus of Fortuitous Unions." A hush fell over the crowd. All eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, turned towards Austin. He felt a wave of nausea wash over him. Hi, he stammered, managing a weak smile. "Thanks for having me." The crowd erupted in murmurs. Some of the aliens seemed impressed, others amused, and a few looked openly skeptical. Zyler ushered him towards a raised platform where three figures waited: Princess Lyra of the House of Eternal Starlight, Princess Zilthian of the Psychic Nebula Collective, and Ambassador Vrook, a representative of the enigmatic KRYLL Empire. Princess Lyra, the blue-skinned beauty from the Galactic Cultural Network broadcast, offered a serene smile. "Lord Reeves, we are delighted to finally meet you in person. Your sudden emergence has caused quite a stir." "Thank you, Princess Lyra," Austin replied, trying to remember the Nexus's briefing. "I'm still trying to adjust." Princess Zilthian, a slender being with skin that shimmered with iridescent colors, regarded him with a cool, appraising gaze. Her eyes seemed to bore into his soul. "Bearer of the Nexus, your aura is interesting. Primitive, yet potent." Austin swallowed nervously. He had no idea what an aura was, let alone whether his was up to snuff. Ambassador Vrook, a hulking figure shrouded in shadow, merely nodded curtly. The KRYLL were known for their stoicism and their impenetrable motivations. "Perhaps," Princess Lyra suggested, "we could begin with a formal introduction. Share a bit about yourself, Lord Reeves. Tell us about your home world." Austin took a deep breath. "Well, I'm from Earth. It's a planet. We have trees, and oceans, and reality TV." A ripple of amusement ran through the crowd. Princess Lyra chuckled softly. "Indeed. Earth culture is quite unique. I understand you were previously employed as a data analyst." "Yeah," Austin said, relieved to be on familiar territory. "I crunched numbers. Optimized algorithms. Nothing glamorous." "Fascinating," Princess Zilthian said, her voice laced with an unsettling mixture of curiosity and disdain. "So, you were a mere cog in the machine. And now, you wield the Nexus. Fortune truly does favor the unexpected." Austin bristled at the condescending tone. "Hey, I was a good cog. And I didn't ask for this. I just found the bracelet." "The Nexus does not simply find its bearers," Princess Lyra said gently. "It chooses them. There must be something exceptional about you, Lord Reeves." "I assure you, there isn't," Austin said, his voice laced with frustration. "I'm completely ordinary. I'm not a diplomat, or a politician, or a sovereign of fortuitous circumstance." Princess Zilthian finished, raising a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Perhaps we should put that to the test." She snapped her fingers, and a section of the reception hall shimmered, resolving into a holographic arena. "Let us see if your fortune extends to challenges." "Challenges?" Austin repeated, his stomach sinking. "The trials of Zilthian," the princess declared, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "A series of tests designed to assess your suitability. If you succeed, you will prove yourself worthy of the Nexus. If you fail..." She trailed off, leaving the threat unspoken. Austin looked from Princess Zilthian to Princess Lyra, who offered him a sympathetic but helpless shrug. Ambassador Vrook remained impassive. "What kind of trials?" Austin asked, dread creeping into his voice. "That would spoil the surprise," Princess Zilthian said with a cruel smile. But rest assured, they will be enlightening. Are you ready, Lord Reeves? Austin hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to somehow shed the bracelet and return to his old, boring life. But something inside him, a spark of defiance, perhaps, or maybe just plain stubbornness, refused to let him back down. Fine, he said, squaring his shoulders. Let's do this. What's the worst that could happen? The arena shimmered, and the floor beneath his feet vanished. He plummeted downwards, screaming into the unknown. The trials of Zilthian had begun. Austin landed with a thump on a soft, spongy surface. He looked around, his eyes widening in disbelief. He was in a giant, technicolor mushroom forest. The mushrooms pulsed with light and emitted strange, gurgling sounds. "Welcome to the first trial, Lord Reeves," Princess Zilthian's voice echoed through the forest. "The maze of illusions. Navigate your way to the center, but be warned, not everything is as it seems." Austin cautiously stepped forward, his senses overwhelmed by the bizarre environment. The mushrooms shifted and changed shape, creating dizzying patterns. The air was thick with a sweet, cloying scent that made his head spin. "Okay, Nexus," he muttered. "Any advice?" "Proceed with caution," the Nexus replied. "Illusions are strong here. Trust your instincts, but be prepared to question everything." Austin pressed on, weaving between the giant mushrooms. He soon realized that the path was constantly changing, leading him in circles. He saw things out of the corner of his eye, shadowy figures, fleeting glimpses of other worlds, impossible geometries. He reached out to touch a particularly vibrant mushroom, and his hand passed right through it. It was an illusion. "Clever," Princess Zilthian's voice echoed. "But can you distinguish reality from fantasy? Or will you be lost in the maze forever?" Austin concentrated, trying to focus his mind. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to feel the true nature of his surroundings. He sensed a faint energy signature emanating from one of the mushrooms. It felt real. He reached out and touched it. This time, his hand met solid resistance. The mushroom pulsed with a warm, comforting light. "Good," the Nexus said. "Follow that energy signature. It will lead you to the next clue." Austin followed the energy signature, carefully avoiding the illusory mushrooms. The path became more treacherous, winding through narrow passages and across precarious bridges. He encountered more illusions, phantom creatures that snarled and snapped at him, tempting visions of his old life, even Jessica offering him a heartfelt apology. He resisted them all, relying on the Nexus's guidance and his own growing sense of intuition. Finally, after what felt like hours, he reached the center of the maze. A pedestal stood in the middle of a clearing, and on it rested a small, glowing orb. "Congratulations, Lord Reeves," Princess Zilthian's voice said, sounding almost impressed. "You have successfully navigated the maze of illusions. But the trials are far from over. Prepare yourself for the next challenge." The orb pulsed with light, and the mushroom forest dissolved around him. Austin found himself standing in a new environment, a vast, icy plain beneath a crimson sky. "Welcome to the second trial," Princess Zilthian's voice boomed. "The frozen wasteland. Your task is simple: survive." A bone-chilling wind swept across the plain, biting at his skin. He shivered, realizing that his fancy space clothes were not exactly designed for Arctic conditions. "Nexus, I'm freezing," he complained. "Is there a setting for not hypothermia?" "Adjusting thermal regulation parameters," the Nexus replied. "However, survival in this environment requires more than just warmth. You must find shelter, locate a source of energy, and evade the inhabitants." Austin looked around, his eyes scanning the desolate landscape. He saw nothing but ice, snow, and jagged, snow-covered peaks in the distance. "Inhabitants?" he asked nervously. "What kind of inhabitants?" A low growl answered his question. A hulking, fur-covered creature emerged from behind a snowdrift. It had sharp claws, glowing red eyes, and a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. "Oh, those kind of inhabitants," Austin gulped. The creature lunged. The trials of Zilthian were escalating quickly, and Austin knew he was in serious trouble. He needed to find a way to survive, and fast. His success so far had been mostly luck, but luck only lasts so long. He would have to use his intelligence if he wanted to live through the rest of the trials. Austin dove behind a jagged ice formation just as another blast of freezing wind whipped across the frozen wasteland. The hulking creature, which the Nexus identified as a glacier stalker, snarled and pawed at the ground, its breath misting in the frigid air. "Nexus, any bright ideas?" Austin whispered, his teeth chattering. "Preferably ones that don't involve becoming glacier stalker chow." "The environment is your ally, Lord Reeves," the Nexus replied. "Observe the terrain. Identify weaknesses." Austin risked a peek around the ice formation. The glacier stalker was surprisingly agile for its size, leaping across crevasses with ease. But he noticed something: the ice beneath its feet cracked slightly with each jump. "The ice!" Austin exclaimed. "It's unstable. Can we lure it onto a weak spot?" "A promising strategy," the Nexus said. "But the glacier stalker is not unintelligent. It will not be easily tricked." "I've dealt with dumber spreadsheets," Austin muttered. He grabbed a handful of snow and packed it into a crude snowball. He hurled it at the glacier stalker, hitting it squarely in the snout. The creature roared in fury and charged towards him. Austin sprinted away, leading it towards a section of the ice plain riddled with visible cracks. "Come on, you overgrown furball!" Austin yelled, dodging another swipe of the glacier stalker's claws. "I've got a spreadsheet with your name on it." The glacier stalker, blinded by rage, followed him onto the unstable ice. The cracking sound intensified. Austin leaped to safety just as a large section of the ice gave way beneath the creature's weight. The glacier stalker plummeted into the icy depths below, its roar fading into the distance. Austin stood panting, his body numb with cold. Did it work?" "A temporary reprieve," the Nexus confirmed. "But the frozen wasteland holds many dangers. You must find shelter before the next storm arrives." Austin scanned the horizon. In the distance, he saw a dark shape against the crimson sky. "Is that a cave?" "A plausible shelter," the Nexus said. "But proceed with caution. Caves are often home to other inhabitants." Austin trudged towards the cave, his footsteps crunching in the snow. The entrance was partially blocked by a wall of ice, but he managed to squeeze through. The cave was dark and damp, but noticeably warmer than the outside. He could hear the sound of dripping water echoing through the cavern. "Hello?" Austin called out, his voice trembling slightly. "Anyone home?" A chorus of high-pitched squeaks answered him. A swarm of small, bat-like creatures erupted from the depths of the cave, circling around his head. "What are those things?" Austin yelled, swatting at the creatures. "Ice shriekers," the Nexus identified. "They are territorial and possess a sonic attack that can shatter ice and bone." "Great," Austin groaned. "Just great. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for second part."